Version control is an important topic. It all starts with repositories. Repositories are the master stash of code and documents for a project. They can be centralized, where there is just one copy, or distributed, where there are many copies of the main repository distributed around the globe for productivity. As you can imagine, having multiple copies of the repository introduces complications. As such, a whole vocabulary has arisen to describe working with a distributed repository like Git. Let's see how this works. Suppose you start working on a project. You begin by downloading a copy of the repository from GitHub to your computer. The repository contains all of the files in the project. Once you've downloaded the repository, you create a working copy of those files on your local machine. The working copy is called a branch in Git terms, and it's what you make your changes in. Think of it like you're downloading a Word document from the internet that you want to change. Instead of editing the original file, you duplicate it with a new name. This way you can always go back to the original if you need to. Now, back in coding land, after you develop a sweet new feature, you commit those changes to your local working copy. However, while you perform this work, the main project might have had changes made to it by another developer to do something like fix a bug. In order to ensure your working copy has these latest changes, you can pull or download the latest changes from GitHub into your working copy so that it remains up to date. So you may hear others talking about branching, committing, or pulling, but it's all really just a fancy way to say you're downloading the latest code onto your computer, creating a working copy of it, doing some work, and sometimes checking to see if anything was updated while you did your work. But wait, you may remember that this repository we're talking about is a local copy. That means there's still a central repository out there. So what happens if you're done making changes locally and want to upload them to that central repository on GitHub? This is exactly what the push command is for. It uploads your working copy to GitHub. However, for many projects, pushing your working copy to GitHub will not immediately change the main project. First, your new code must be reviewed by your teammates. In order to ask your teammates for a review, you create what's called a pull request, which is often shortened to PR. This is a page on GitHub that allows your teammates to review the changes you've made and make suggestions for improvement before it's committed to the main codebase. Once everyone is happy with your changes, you can use the merge command to merge your changes into the main project. After that, the next time your teammates pull or download the latest code, they'll get your changes. Lastly, you should be familiar with the term fork. This just means make a copy of and is often used in the open source community. If someone made some code that does task A, but you think it can be easily modified to do task B, you'd fork it, and it takes on a life of its own in a brand new repository owned by you. This all may sound confusing, but don't worry, you don't need to master it. Just become familiar with the ideas behind version control and what each term means. I promise you'll be way ahead of the game if you know the basics.